Efootball is a nice game that most of us keep playing, but we all know that it could be so much more and that some changes are desperately needed. Here comes Pippa. Welcome everybody! Today let's talk about 17 things that eFootball should change. And most of them are actually quite easy changes. By the way, since many of you wanted to see the game versus the legendary AI on my main team, you can see it right here. If you have any other suggestions for eFootball, feel free to mention it in the comments. For me, perhaps for you as well, one of the main problems of the game right now is that there just isn't really an incentive to play, outside of intrinsically enjoying the game. The game lacks content. Divisions, for example, are alright and everything, but apart from the badge, there is no reason to keep playing once you've reached Division 1. And until some point, thanks due to how the matchmaking and the point system works, it just becomes a grind fest. But what if? What if every phase ended one day early and every single Division 1 player, or perhaps a bit less depending on how many there are, qualifies for the end season knockout tournament that takes place at the next day? Imagine eFootball Universe vs Rock Chalk wouldn't only be the iconic battle for Ireland, but also the semi-final deciding who will go on to face End Dominator for the championship of the division phase. There would be a lot of high stakes games that wouldn't only be fun to play, but also to watch. It would be more about who's the best, because the amount of games played would not matter. You could also give nice rewards for reaching a certain stage of this tournament. You could even make it for every single division, so not only Division 1 players get to enjoy this. My next point, number 2, actually expands on this. The change I am proposing now isn't anything new. It has been in Pro Evolution Soccer's Master League Online almost 15 years ago. 15! Again, it's tournaments. It's what I enjoyed most back then. The way it worked was like every 2 hours or something, you could just sign up for a tournament. Then you would have like a play-in phase of 3 or 4 games, and after this, the game made a table just like at the Test Your Limit events. The best people then proceeded to the knockout stage. And it was so much fun, it was so exciting, playing like a high-stakes quarterfinal, seeing the tournament table on who you're gonna be facing next in case you win. I have no idea why this is not in the game anymore. Back then you even got pretty amazing rewards for it. Today you could have something like additional player of the week or epic spins, a few coins, booster tokens, stuff like that. You could even have different limitations for different days or individual tournaments, like 3-star players only, under 23 years only, player of the week only, any continent or country only, or whatever team the players from the current pack are from only, so people who spend on them get something additional out of it. Anything. Number 3 is tactics. In my opinion, we should also go back to Pro Evolution Soccer here. While players should still be allowed to use the default tactics the managers have now, we should also be allowed to craft our own tactics with the sliders we had back then. It would allow for a lot more different options if you could decide how far your defensive line moves up, how wide your players go, how compact your formation should be, how wide you want to defend, how your players should react when you lose possession, and so on. It would also be nice if we could have individual instructions for every single player. Back in old PES, you could for example give every single player arrows to suggest where they should be moving. You could also not only have fluid formations, which would be super nice to have, but also 2 instead of 1 different sub-tactic. On top of that, switching sub-tactics was a lot more convenient, because you could easily do it with one of the shoulder buttons plus one of the regular buttons. So you wouldn't need to hold the D-pad, which can be distracting. So yeah, I'd welcome a tactics upgrade. Number 4 is actually what I think needs to change most urgently, and that is stat inflation. Like, where is this going? In 2 or 3 years, will we get 115 triple booster, phenomenal finishing, blitz, curler, visionary pass, game-changing captaincy, ultra instinct Messi? In my opinion, the stats are already way too high for the game, and that is not so good. I think the game is way more enjoyable if you play with the regular teams who don't have absurdly high stats. For example, passes are less accurate, so it's harder to do longer passes to skip the midfield, which would have players make more elaborate choices where to pass. Balance would be lower, so you'd get punished more for passing or shooting off balance rather than the stats compensating for this. You'd also have less stamina, so players can't press the entire game, and so on. Now the question is how to fix this. A reset is no option, because that would be extremely unfair to everybody who paid and drive players away. What I would do is just keep the stats, but scale them down when processing them in-game, so that for example a stat shown as 100 would act as, for example, just an example, right, 86 in the game, 90 would be 77, 80 80 would be 68, and so on. This way, players who spend money get to keep their advantage, and the game would be in a way healthier state. Number 5 is about skill trainers, boosters, and position trainers. In my opinion, they should all work similar to how boosters do. Basically, instead of having to hope to get the right skill or position and wasting them way too often, and even having to keep a private army of Raquel Lombardis for skills, you should just be able to spend more of the skill and position trainers to get a special trainer that lets you decide which skill or position to get. If many booster tokens can allow you to choose a booster you like, many skill trainers or position trainers should also allow you to choose a specific skill trainer or position. Also, please give us token to remove skills from players. I would really appreciate if this would change. Number 6 is about the connection. You know, many people sometimes have connection problems. That by itself unfortunately can happen, but it would be super nice if the game gave us more information about it. When in a game, I would for example like to see my ping while playing and also know which server I'm playing on. Before playing, I would also like to be able to see which servers the game would be checking for a game in case I queued up, how my ping to all of them would be, and how crowded they currently are. I would even go as far as to let the game allow us to select the servers we would like to have included when signing up for a game. While having all of this information won't do anything for you if the problem is on your end, it could be very helpful for us if it's for example a routing problem between the servers and us, because we could just choose different servers then rather than hoping we get the one we need. Number 7 is the eFootball points shop, and I think I have a decent idea what to do with it. Let's rebrand this as a sort of legacy shop. Basically, any card that was previously free, like for example Santos, Neymar, Rui Maradona or Costa Curta, you can, after some time has passed, buy in this shop in case you missed it. It could also include jerseys that were previously available but aren't anymore. I'd love to be able to use some of the old ones. Where are they? Make all of that stuff expensive if necessary, make it cost 20,000 or more points, whatever, but give this shop a reason to exist. You could even include older epics as long as they're old enough. Anything is better than a random 5,000 point card that most people don't really care about. Number 8 is something I would love to see. Basically, more transparency about in-game mechanics and patches. I think it would be good if additionally to the in-game descriptions, there would also be detailed explanations for when and how the skill actually matters. For example, acceleration does not matter when on the ball. Did you know that? Do you know by how much Fortress increases your player's stats and which ones? Do you know by how much through passing increases your passing? Did you know that Super Sub, for example, changed the way it worked long ago? The only reason we actually get to know this in-depth stuff is because some amazing creators, among them the Chinese tester Amadeus, actually take the time to thoroughly test it. It would be so much easier if the game would just disclose how different stats influence different mechanics, because some stuff is just extremely hard to accurately test. Number 9 is actually related to this. I would like to have more detailed patch notes about the actual gameplay changes. Like tell us for example if interceptions were made weaker, if blitz curlers were made weaker, if feints are now having a higher likelihood to fail, something like that. I think it would be good to know, especially if they also tell us why they did certain changes, because that might make the player base understand them better. For example, if you change it, just let us know by how much passing is less accurate now or something, stuff like this. The Super Sub example from point 8 is a good example. Number 10 is something I think EAFC actually has, but I haven't played that title for over 10 years, so correct me if I'm wrong. It's draft mode. Apparently this is something like the arena mode in Hearthstone, just in case you know that, and I think it's a great concept. Basically, you select a formation and then you get a selection of random players to choose from for each position of your team. It's always different. It won't be games full of epics. It would be sort of balanced. Then you get to play like 10 games, but you don't need to play them all at once. And depending on your performance, you get some rewards. Again, can be a player of the week spin, an epic spin, a few coins, boosters, skill or position trainers, something along these lines. Number 11 is something big. Many people desire this. The big old game modes, Master League and Become a Legend. I don't really have any hope that they'll come any soon, but I'm sure many players would love to have them. They were both both such fun modes. Since both were already in the game, I cannot imagine it would take that much work to get them ready for eFootball. I think they might just be afraid that it would drive away players from Dream Team and therefore possibly from spending. But I'm not sure about that. I think the demographics might actually not be as overlapping as one could suggest. But then again, I don't know. It's just what I'm thinking. I wouldn't even have a problem if they wanted money for these modes. In my opinion, it might even make people who've previously played Pro Evolution Soccer try eFootball again, rather than driving people away from Dream Team. Master League would also allow content creators to explore new niches. This is something I've always wanted to ask you anyway. Like for EAFC, there are these story-driven career mode videos, which is something I always wanted to do, but I have no idea whether they're interesting for you in case that Master League ever shows up. So yeah, feel free to let me know in the comments if you know about these and whether you like that kind of stuff or not. The next thing the game needs is actually something kind of little. Replays. Let us rewatch our games without having to record them all by ourselves. I don't know why this isn't in yet, but I think it could be a nice feature to have. I've read a couple of times about players who scored nice goals, but the opponent quit so they couldn't rewatch or save it. Replays would fix this. It would also be interesting for creators because we could do some stuff with a different perspectives. Number 13 is the obvious choice now, edit mode. Not only would this be very useful in terms of testing because we could simply change every single thing about a player and compare the differences, no, you could also play with players that aren't in the game. The PES modding community has always been amazing, although I'm not sure if they rely on edit mode to be honest, but still a good timing to give a shout out regardless. Imagine this would work like it does in the WWE games, where someone just creates a player and others from the community can then just use it as well. I miss edit mode. One could also make a Master League save with a completely new team out of channel members and subscribers only. The next thing is actually infuriating me. Apologies if this is my fault, but I think they should make these celebrations and stadium colors and stuff when you reveal a player a lot more obvious. Right now, sometimes you get that nicely colored stadium and wonder, oh, what's it gonna be? Haha, joke's on you, it's a random 2-star goalkeeper. Why? I don't know if this is only me, but until now, I have not understood how this is supposed to work at all. Number 15 is annoying in-game stuff. There are a lot of things people are complaining about. What I would love to see change, for example, are interceptions, which can still turn out kinda unreliable or even have the ball go through players, and that situation I recently showed in a different video when you press a button but the game just ignores it. The reason why I chose these two specifically is not only because they're annoying, but also because they have been working better already before. The input not registering did never happen to me before version 4, and version 3.2 or was it 3.3 had a lot more reliable interceptions than we have today. I would prefer to have it like back it was then. The next thing is something little that I also don't like that much about eFootball, but to be honest, I don't have any solution for it. So if you have one, feel free to let me know in the comments. Basically, the best teams have no identity. There isn't really anything individual about the top squads, it's just a collection of the best players arranged in certain ways. I would consider it nice if you could, for example, choose 1 or 2 players of your team who you'd give an item for them to be allowed to get more and more allocation points if you reached like 100, 200, 500, 1000 games played or goals scored and so on. The only problem is that it has to be limited to weaker cards somehow, otherwise it would only make the best cards even better. So as I said, I don't have any good solution for this. The last point, number 17, is the 250 card pack. I really don't like where this is going. It's kind of a worrying trend in my opinion. I think the Bale card is extremely good, but potentially having to spend 250 bucks for it, I'm not sure if I would feel good about this. But this trend isn't new. In case you remember, in the first Destroyer Vieira Arsenal pack, it was Gilberto Silva, Vieira and Cech. 3 absolute units, what an endgame pack. In the re-release, it was suddenly Bergkamp instead of Cech. This trend of having one rather not so useful card in a 150 pack, essentially making it a 2 in 150 pack, also showed in other packs. Maradona and Pirlo had Xabi Alonso. Thuram and Nesta had Otto as a third card that was way worse than the others. The 250 card pack was just kind of the next step, but I really hope this was just a one-time off because I'm not a big fan of it. Well, that's it folks, let me know if you liked this video. I'd love if you subscribed, liked or commented. Until then guys, take it easy. Shaka!